Violette1st, Bill's horrifying day. Story for Lexi at LexiX5. Introduction. Welcome to another story. This is the tragic tale of Bill's spiral into utter chaos and destruction. It all begins innocently enough, with a simple bowl of fruit parfait. But what happens next is pure madness. All ending in the creation of a new species of human. Content warning. This video story contains extreme violence, emotional distress, disturbing content, and a grim, unsettling ending. It is intended solely for entertainment purposes and is recommended for viewers aged 15 and older. Viewer discretion is advised. Do not attempt any actions or behaviors portrayed in this video anywhere, as they may result in serious injury or death. Main characters: Violette, Bill, William and Lexi. Violette, a 52-year-old mother, Violette struggles to keep her family together, holding on despite Bill's constant destructive behavior. She does her best to maintain a sense of normalcy, but her attempts are often thwarted by Bill's actions. She remains devoted to her son and has an ongoing battle to keep the family intact. Bill, a 58-year-old morbidly obese man-child, Bill is a lost cause. He throws tantrums whenever he doesn't get his way, blowing things up, burning things, or causing chaos. He struggles with his weight, hates dieting and exercising, and his mental state is comparable to a rock. Bill is stubborn, childish, and destructive, with an insatiable appetite and the mentality of a spoiled toddler. William, a 17-year-old son to Violette and Bill, William does his best to help his mother and maintain peace in the household. He finds comfort in Lexi's support and tries to manage the chaos created by his father. William is patient and calm, doing what he can to help his family despite the constant challenges. Lexi, a typical 17-year-old girl, Lexi shares an inseparable bond with William. Calm and collected, she's always there to support him whenever he needs help. Lexi is a great friend, and her positive, caring nature makes her a great person to have around. She's focused on living her life and being a steady presence for those she cares about. Her connection with William is a vital part of her life. That is all I have to say. Enjoy the story. Plot. It is a peaceful late May morning in Mount Airy, Maryland. An 18,473-pound Bill is walking up the basement stairs, eager for breakfast. Bill then sees his wife walking into the kitchen. 1 second later Bill screams for ham. Violette tells Bill to be patient for breakfast. 4 seconds later William and Lexi walk past Bill as he starts bawling his eyes out. 2 seconds later Lexi and William sit down in the kitchen as Violette begins to prepare breakfast. 5 minutes later Violette hands his son and Lexi some fruit parfait. Violette then tells the two of them to brace for impact. 3 seconds later Violette shouts for Bill to get his bum to the kitchen for breakfast. 4 seconds later Bill walks into the kitchen, only to not smell ham. Bill then starts screaming, as he is given a bowl of fruit parfait. 3 seconds later Bill roars at the top of his lungs as he hurls the bowl to the floor. Bill then starts insulting Violette about his breakfast. 9 seconds later Bill drags Violette away. Violette then yells as William and Lexi chase Bill. 4 seconds later Bill rips the front door off its hinges and chucks it at Lexi and William. Lexi then screams, as she gets tackled by William. They then crash onto the floor and barely miss the flying door. 2 seconds later Violette starts screaming at the top of her lungs with pure terror. William and Lexi then sprint outside, as a truck powers up. A few seconds later William and Lexi see Violette is panicking. A few seconds later she gets run over from Bill's truck, as it speeds off. Violette then screams in pain. A few seconds later William and Lexi drag Violette inside, as Bill's truck speeds onto the streets of Mount Airy. 15 minutes later Lexi screams that Bill's truck is driving up. She then says it's creeping along at a snail's pace. William then shouts to Lexi that his mum is unable to get Bill. Lexi then sprints inside. 2 seconds later Lexi drags William outside. Lexi then screams as Bill's truck parks in front of the house. Violette then shouts for William. William then tells Lexi to sprint inside to help Violette. 1 second later Lexi sprints to help his friend's mum as Bill gets out of the truck. William then gets grabbed on his arm. A few seconds later Bill drags his son into his wife's house. Violette then tells Bill he is in deep trouble for his horrid behavior. Bill then tells his wife he is deeply sorrowful for his actions. Violette then tells Bill he is an obese blue whale. Bill then promises that he will be on his best behavior for the rest of his life. Lexi then brings William to the kitchen as William's parents begin arguing about Bill's behavior. Lexi then hugs William as the arguing gets more intense. 10 minutes later Bill starts screaming at Violette to get out of his seat. 4 seconds later William and Lexi hear Bill begin to screech like a howler monkey. Lexi then suggests that they get the BB guns out. William then chuckles quietly as a huge crash is heard. 3 seconds later Lexi and William sprint into the living room with BB guns. 2 seconds later Bill screams that he will torch the living room TV if he doesn't get his junk food. Violette then says to Bill they will go to a buffet for lunch. Bill then screams with excitement as he hurls the living room TV outside. A few seconds later Violette then explains to Bill that they can go to a buffet if he does the dishes and laundry. Bill then lets out a massive roar as he storms away. Bill then screams that he is never washing the effing laundry. 4 seconds later Violette and William tackle Bill as Lexi kicks Bill's balls. 10 minutes later of non-stop beating, Bill unwillingly agrees to wash the laundry. Violette then drags Bill as Lexi and William push Bill. 1 minute later Violette reads out a massive list of rules for Bill. 5 minutes later Violette gives Bill several piles of dirty laundry. Bill then asks if he can be left alone. 4 seconds later Lexi, William, and Violette leave as Bill looks at the washer and dryer, and a medium pile of clothes. 1 minute later Bill starts throwing clothes into the washer. 5 minutes later Bill dumps 1 gallon of dish soap into the washing machine. 1 minute later Bill starts a cycle. A few seconds later Bill starts throwing wet clothes into the washer. A minute later Bill dumps 10 gallons of liquid soap, 3 gallons of mayonnaise, and 18 gallons of various car oils into the washer. Bill then starts a cycle. Bill then walks to the living room. A few seconds later he says he finished washing the laundry. 4 seconds later Bill says he wants to wash the dishes. Violette then gives Bill a list of things to do while washing the dishes. Violette and William then look at each other. 2 minutes later Bill starts throwing dishes into the dishwasher with all his might. Violette then screams at the top of her lungs. 1 minute later a massive crash is heard from the kitchen. Violette and William walk into the kitchen as Lexi walks to the bathroom. 3 seconds later Lexi smells something horrendous. Lexi then sees the bathroom is an ocean of bubbles, and the laundry machines are breaking apart. 4 seconds later Lexi hears Violette scream her heart out at Bill. 1 minute later Lexi watches with horror as the washer explodes. Lexi then runs for her life as the soap, mayo, oil mess oozes closer to the hallway. A few seconds later Lexi watches Violette and William walk out the front door. Lexi then sees the dishwasher is missing and a huge mess has been left inside the kitchen. Lexi then screams at the top of her lungs. 10 seconds later William sprints inside with multiple cleaning supplies. William then tells Lexi to run to Violette, because Bill is preparing to torch the dishwasher. William then starts cleaning up the massive bathroom and kitchen mess. 2 seconds later Lexi runs out to the backyard. 1 minute later a massive fire engulfs the dishwasher as a huge explosion is heard inside the house. Violette then screams with horror as Bill throws the flaming dishwasher into their pool. 2 minutes later William screams that a massive fire is about to start. Lexi and Violette then sprint into the house as Bill grabs his VR headset to play a video game. Lexi then grabs a garden hose with a spray attachment, before sprinting inside. 1 minute later Lexi starts to douse the smoking washer dryer. 5 minutes later the fire scare is put out. A few seconds later Violette hears Bill scream at the top of his lungs. Then the three of them sprint outside. A few seconds later Violette sees Bill has a headset on and he is very pissed off at something. Violette then screams as Bill says a bad word. 1 second later Violette instantly knows that Bill is going to become a hoodlum. Violette shouts Bill's name as he screams the F word at someone. Lexi then gulped with fear as Violette walked over to the blue whale raging at his game. Violette then hears Bill screaming that he will kill someone's entire bloodline if they don't surrender. 2 seconds later Violette tells Bill to get off the damn game. Bill ignores his wife, while he is very close to dying in the game he is playing. 5 seconds later Bill accidentally swings and punches Violette, completely unaware from his VR headset. Violette then walks away, super furious and in pain. 1 minute later Bill rips his headset off. Bill then starts jumping on his VR headset, because he got killed in the game he was raging on. William then instantly knows what is to come. So William drags Lexi inside, as the ground begins to shake from Bill's jumping. Lexi then watches Bill throw the destroyed headset into the pool. Violette then is seen with a BB gun. Violette then laughs like a maniac as she shoots Bill several times. Violette then screams at Bill that his behavior is completely inappropriate. 5 minutes after nagging, Violette tells Bill they are going to Walmart for several items, as she grabs a list of 5,000 rules for Bill. Violette then tells Bill, you better follow the rules, if you even break a single rule, you will be punished severely. A few seconds later Violette shouts for William and Lexi to get the tote bags for a trip to Walmart. Violette and Bill then get into Violette's SUV. 4 minutes later the four of them speed off. 27 minutes later Violette parks near a Walmart, after a pit stop at a Wendy's. Violette, William, and Lexi then walk into the Walmart as Bill ventures off. Lexi then taps Violette's shoulder, pointing to Bill. Violette tells her to just get ready for chaos. 15 minutes later, Bill meets up with the three of them. Bill then asks if he can get a $5 toy. Violette tells Bill he can't get it and he needs to behave himself, before he breaks any of his rules. Bill then processes this statement. Violette then sighs with exhaustion. Bill then crashes onto the floor, while breathing in. William then hands Lexi the SUV keys and tells her to get out for her safety. Lexi says she wants to stay to help with Bill. 2 seconds later Bill lays on his back while whining. Bill then screams at the top of his lungs. 5 seconds later Bill starts to bawl his eyes out while throwing merchandise around. 2 seconds later Bill lets out a massive screech as he kicks around. Violette then brings William and Lexi away. 10 seconds later Bill gets up. Bill then starts running around while destroying stuff. 10 seconds later Bill starts to scream very questionable and disgusting things about his family over the intercom, over the $5 toy. 1 second later Violette calls the fire alarm as she hears Bill drop the F-bomb several times at the top of his lungs. 4 minutes later the Walmart begins to crumble as a huge explosion goes off. Bill runs out of the Walmart as it begins to collapse. Violette then drives up to Bill. Bill then gets into the SUV. Violette then screams her heart out, while nagging Bill. 5 seconds later they speed off while Lexi and William start nagging at Bill. 4 seconds later the Walmart collapses, killing several civilians. Violette then screams at Bill that he broke 382 rules. Bill and Violette start arguing over the matter. 8 minutes later Violette pulls into a parking space. Bill then looks up to see they are at a Safeway. A few seconds later Bill is given a notebook with a list of 30,000 rules that he has to follow. Violette, William, and Lexi then walk to the Safeway to get their shopping done. 2 minutes later Bill grabs 5 grocery carts and ties them in a train formation. Violette then screams as Bill runs past them. 30 minutes later Bill walks to register 13. Bill then asks his wife, as Lexi and William are helping with the groceries and bagging. Violette tells Bill he can't get the 5 grocery carts of junk. 10 seconds later Violette explains he needs to start his super strict diet and gym plan given by their family doctor. Bill then grabs 1 bottle of sprinkles from the food. 2 seconds later Violette tells Bill he can't get them sprinkles, or any junk food. Bill then runs away with his groceries. 40 seconds later Bill ties 9 more carts to his 5 grocery carts. 10 minutes later Violette hops into the SUV as Lexi returns the shopping cart and William finishes loading the trunk. 2 minutes later, they start to reverse out of the parking space as Bill drives a stolen motorized shopping cart past the SUV. Violette then sighs after realizing that Bill tied 19 grocery carts together in a road train formation. A few seconds later Violette says they will deal with Bill when he returns home. Lexi then sighs with relief with the moment they get away from Bill. William then hugs Lexi as they speed home. 15 minutes later Violette turns the radio on to hear a broadcast about the destruction of a Safeway that happened several minutes ago. Violette then listens to the broadcast about the Safeway that had the destruction of 4 aisles in 10 minutes. 1 minute later Violette hears the 3 words she prayed wouldn't be said. A few seconds later Violette tells Lexi and William that Bill destroyed 4 aisles in the Safeway. Lexi then asks what is happening. But before anyone says anything, Violette parks on the side of the road, as Bill's grocery train slowly chugs past them. Violette then counts a total of 19 carts of stolen groceries, 3 grocery carts of junk from Wendy's, 17 wagons filled with fast food bags, 4 wagons filled with boxes of donuts from Krispy Kreme, and 18 grocery carts filled with sprinkles. Violette then watches Bill's food train slowly disappear around a corner. 2 seconds later Violette pulls onto the street, finishing the 3-minute drive. 5 minutes later the 3 of them start bringing their groceries in. 15 minutes later Violette crashes on the couch, exhausted from the day that Bill caused. A minute later Lexi and William walk into Lexi's room to have fun, while Violette falls asleep. 7 minutes later Bill parks his grocery train in front of the house. He then walks inside. 4 seconds later Bill asks Violette if they can go to a buffet for an early dinner. Bill then says he returned his groceries. 5 seconds later Violette gets up. Bill then says he will blow up the house if he can't go to the buffet. Violette then unwillingly agrees, because she doesn't want to fight Bill. A few seconds later Bill runs to the SUV, as Violette knocks on Lexi's bedroom door. Bill then screams for Violette because he is beyond hungry. 1 second later Violette tells Bill to be patient. 1 minute later Lexi and William hop into the SUV. 10 seconds later they speed off to a buffet that is 40 minutes away, since Bill has been banned from hundreds of buffets in the past. However Violette saw the grocery train, but completely ignored it to avoid a fight with Bill. 50 minutes later Violette pulls into the parking lot. Violette then locks the doors as she parks. 15 seconds later Violette starts reading out a list of rules for Bill. 10 minutes later Violette parks the SUV, as she states the final rule. Bill ignores Violette as he sprints towards the buffet. Violette then tells Lexi to get ready for another banning. 1 minute later the 4 of them get their seats. 10 seconds later Violette, William, and Lexi order their beverages, as Bill runs away. 4 minutes later Violette, William, and Lexi begin eating their meals quickly since their ban is imminent. 5 seconds later Bill arrived at the food. He then launches his hand into the food, grabbing fists full. He then starts eating out of the steamed trays with his grubby mitts that haven't been cleaned since Christmas. Bill then starts moving to a new steamed tray every 10 seconds because he eats everything so quickly. Violette then looks up to see Bill. She ignores her blue whale being disgusting. 5 minutes later Bill sprints to the drinks table after clearing out the main food and desserts. Violette then watches Bill chugging random bottles. Bill then laughs like a sociopath as he destroys the drinks table when the drinks run out. A few seconds later Bill screams at the top of his lungs while grabbing an axe. Lexi then hugs William as they finish eating their food. Violette then tells his son and Lexi to get outside. They run outside as Bill sprints to the kitchen. 5 seconds later Lexi shouts for everyone to get outside. Bill then lets out a massive roar as massive crashing sounds start up in the kitchen. Violette then knows the buffet is about to collapse, so she sprints outside, pulling the fire alarm. 6 minutes later huge crashing sounds can be heard. Then the crowd sees Bill smashing up the entire buffet. Violette then tells Lexi and William to get into the SUV. 1 minute later they speed away, watching Bill storm away. 1 hour later Violette, William, and Lexi sprint into the house. They then crash onto the sofa. 3 seconds later an evacuation siren goes off. Violette then tells the kids to get packed up since they are leaving for a while. 1 second later the 3 of them begin quickly packing up their lives into the SUV and a trailer. 1 hour later they finish packing up all their belongings into a trailer and the SUV. A few minutes later they get into the SUV. Lexi then asks about Bill's belongings. Violette tells Lexi that Bill might have caused the siren. They then speed off, to get into a traffic jam of people trying to flee. 3 hours later they start unpacking in a hotel room. 1 hour later they fall asleep, all worried for the future of Mount Airy. Several hours later, at 7 AM a huge explosion rocks the hotel, waking up all 3 of them. A few seconds later several massive explosions go off back to back. A few seconds later a TV turns onto a national broadcast. The TV then says the United States is under attack, Frederick County is being blown sky high. Violette, William, and Lexi then start screaming with horror as more explosions go off. Then all of the guests at the hotel start screaming for their lives. A few minutes later the final explosion goes off. A few seconds later the TV says the prime suspect is Bill Thomas Anderson. Violette then sees Bill is still at large, highly dangerous, and the most wanted man in the country. 5 seconds later Violette begins twitching while breathing in. William and Lexi then put noise-cancelling headphones on, as Violette turns neon red and steam explodes out of her ears. 20 seconds later Violette then screams at over 300 decibels, venting about Bill's utter insanity, with pure rage. 1 minute later Violette tells Lexi and William they are renting a steamroller. 2 minutes later Violette violently drives off to the closest construction company. 1 minute later Violette turns the radio on as soon as a national broadcast starts. The broadcast said, "Attention everyone, suspect Bill Thomas Anderson wanted for the destruction of Frederick County, Maryland. Current fatality count of 25,000. Suspect Bill was driving a beat-up 2012 Chevrolet Silverado 1500, dark green, with the passenger side door completely ripped off and the windshield shattered, leaving jagged glass in the frame. The truck has deep gouges along the driver's side, a crumpled front fender, and mismatched headlights, one flickering. License plate reads 7JXR329, barely hanging on by one bolt. The vehicle is lifted, with oversized mud terrain tires and a loud, growling exhaust. The truck was last seen 10 minutes ago. If you see this vehicle, avoid it at all costs. If you see Bill, you may shoot on sight. No legal repercussions for shooting Bill, his crimes are far worse. That is all for now." Violette then starts thinking that the steamroller would be way too bad. Lexi then asks what will happen next. Violette says they will track Bill down before anyone else loses their lives. But as soon as she finishes saying that, the radio says another broadcast. The second broadcast says thousands more killed in a massive gas station terrorism act. Bill spotted a gas station robbing it for money and snacks. Bill ran away, but not before blowing up the gas station, killing another 5,000 innocent civilians. Everyone stays inside for the time being, because Bill has been spotted near the White House. More updates soon. 1 second later, William begins to shiver at the fact that Bill could destroy the White House and us president. Lexi then starts crying as Violette drives onto the median to violently turn around so they can drive to Washington, D.C. 2 seconds later, William hugs Lexi as they quickly speed up. 5 seconds later, Violette turns on Bill mode, which makes the SUV gain an additional 50 miles per hour max speed. 10 seconds later, they reach over 180 miles an hour. 5 minutes later, the radio says Bill Thomas Anderson has blown up the White House. White House has been blown to the ground. Everyone shelter now, this is not a drill. President, Vice President, Cabinet, Speaker of House of Reps, Secretary of Defense, heads of the armed services, and many others killed. Nuclear football lost. Last seen with Bill Anderson. The country is now in mass chaos. Everyone brace for the coming hours. More updates coming shortly. Violette then screams at the top of her lungs, because of Bill having access to America's nuclear arsenal. 10 seconds later, Violette gets a glimpse of Bill speeding past them in the other direction. Violette then tells Lexi and William to get ready. 3 seconds later, William hugs Lexi, as Violette turns around, speeding closer towards Bill. Violette then tells Lexi and William they are going to 150 miles an hour. 5 minutes later, Violette sees Bill just ahead of them, as they speed past the wasteland of Frederick County. 2 seconds later, Bill's stolen vehicle speeds up quickly. 10 seconds later, Violette watches with pure anger as the stolen Bugatti disappears. 2 minutes later, the SUV radio says nuclear war imminent. Bill Thomas Anderson has intentionally launched all nukes. Multiple massive nukes sent to Russia, China, North Korea, Iraq, and several other massive countries. Nuclear war imminent. Everyone brace for impact. Violette then screams with pure horror at the fact Bill put humanity on the brink of self-destruction. William and Lexi then start bawling their eyes out as they speed back to the hotel. 10 minutes later, Violette, William, and Lexi sprint into their hotel room. A few seconds later, the TV turns onto a broadcast saying, over 100 nukes inbound to America, all nuclear war starting shortly. World on the brink of total collapse, 20 world leaders killed from the horrendous actions of Bill Thomas Anderson. All hope is lost for the survival of humanity. Violette, William, and Lexi then bawl their eyes out as they realize they might be killed soon. 9 seconds later, Bill somehow walks into the hotel room, while being a little toasty. Bill then tells his wife he has now cooled down and is ready to resume their lives. Bill then says, I am sorry for having my little buffet tantrum. I promise to change my ways, after going to the White House, after blowing it up and intentionally starting a nuclear war. I realized I cannot throw tantrums over getting banned from a buffet. My behavior was completely unacceptable. So after the nuclear war ends, I will start a diet and try to behave myself. Even though I loved blowing up an entire county and killing 30,000 people, blowing up our hometown, killing everyone in the government, and starting a nuclear apocalypse. I now realize my behavior at the supermarket and buffet is highly inappropriate. I have changed my ways and can't wait to move back to the house. Violette then looks at the burnt to a crisp Bill with horror. 2 seconds later, Violette realizes Bill is completely ignorant to the fact that he destroyed humanity. Violette then screams with a demonic voice at over 200 decibels. What the actual Fouquet is wrong with you? You started a nuclear war over being banned from a measly buffet. You destroyed the American government. You put humanity on the risk of total collapse. And we cannot move back home. You blew up our entire town, our entire county. You single-handedly killed 25,000 people. And the gas station, you committed terrorism. You committed the single worst act of genocide in American history. You are a disgusting alien. Get out of this room before I rip you apart. You will live through everything. You will face pain you never have faced. I will RIP off every finger one by one. Bill then runs out of a window, screaming at the top of his lungs, something offensive and truly disgusting. A few seconds later, Violette falls onto the floor, bawling her eyes out. Lexi then hugs Violette, as a new broadcast comes on. The three of them look up, seeing that the nuclear war has started, and the hope for humanity's survival is a 1 in a trillion chance. A few minutes later, they see 800 nukes are only 7 minutes away from America. Violette then screams while sobbing. A few seconds later, Violette, William, and Lexi run to the SUV. 1 minute later, they speed off to a high-rise. 4 minutes later, they ran into an elevator. They then take it to the 30th floor of a high-rise building. 1 minute later, Violette, William, and Lexi run to the roof's edge as more people are on the roof, watching the end of America. 9 seconds later, William plays his favorite song for the last time. Lexi then hugs William tightly while her eyes are watery. Someone then soberly says the nukes are 90 seconds away. Everyone begins crying as they see several nukes coming down. 3 seconds later, everyone begins quietly singing together, as they barely hold on. 9 seconds later, Violette sees Bill in the distance, carelessly dancing with happiness while looking at the nukes. Violette then pukes at the fact Bill is celebrating the end of the world. A few seconds later, the nukes begin to slow down as they go to their destinations. Then everyone stands in silence, some people bawling, some praying, and some just watching the end of it all. 1 minute later, 13 seconds remaining, everyone accepts they are done for. Then the nukes start crashing all over America, and all over the world. Killing millions, including the Anderson family and Lexi. All the way up on the International Space Station, 5 astronauts watch the slow destruction of Earth, all unaware they are now doomed in space. The astronauts watch with horror, as Earth and America slowly blow up. Hours later, the final nukes blew up. With only less than 30,000 survivors, the fallout and radiation will eventually kill them all. All life on Earth is gone, all animals, plants, and humanity. 8 billion people were killed in several hours. All 30,000 survivors are doomed to pass away in the coming hours or days, from no food, water, or the massive amount of radiation. Months later, every living species is dead, including the 5 astronauts. The Svalbard seed vault was open, before everyone died, as satellites start crashing down to Earth, because no one can monitor them. So years later, seeds started flying throughout Earth. Millions of years later, Earth is revived. Like Earth got a second revival. A new species of humans start evolving. And this race of humans will find records lost about the old world. As they get smarter and more civilized, they all make sure they don't create things like nukes or warships. They create a world democracy, creating world peace. Everyone is treated equally. As millions of years pass, Earth thrives and all is now good, and they use the satellites that the old humans made, because the thousands of satellites crashed into Earth, rotting away. Thankfully being used by the new race of humans to prosper. The end.